Starting as quiet diplomatic tension, the conflict between the United States and India could escalate into one of the most serious geopolitical crises of the decade's early years. And as recent events show, India has no intention of submitting to the expectations imposed on it by Washington and its proxies. In recent days, international analysts have been focused on a series of strange and contradictory statements regarding a phone call between Donald Trump and Narendra Modi. In an interview with a major American television channel, Trump claimed that during their conversation, Modi allegedly promised to stop purchasing Russian oil and fully redirect India's energy imports to alternative sources. According to Trump, this was a key element of their allies-friends relationship, with India supposedly committing to play a crucial role in the anti-Russian coalition. However, Indian officials quickly issued a sharp denial. Government representatives stated that no such phone conversation ever took place and that Modi made no such promises. Moreover, India's Ministry of External Affairs emphasized that the United States has no recording, document, or even audio evidence of such a conversation, and the statements attributed to the Indian side are entirely fabricated. Why then did Trump embark on such a loud gamble? One explanation is the desire to use public pressure to force India to join sanctions against Russia, to make it a participant in the Western Bloc, and close all energy doors to Moscow. But India does not appear to be the kind of partner that can be pushed through threats and ultimatums. And here a far more interesting and significant trend comes into play: the rethinking of India's foreign policy itself. Until recently, New Delhi balanced between Moscow and the West, trying to maintain autonomy without breaking ties with either side. But now India is showing its intention to go further, moving from mere multi-vector diplomacy to developing a strategy of de-dollarization and promoting its own currency space. Behind closed doors in India's bureaucracy and financial administration, discussions are already underway about reducing dollar settlements, expanding mutual trade in rupees, and switching to bilateral trade agreements outside the dollar system. Some sources close to India's Ministry of Finance told major Asian outlets on condition of anonymity that in the coming months, a national plan for currency independence will be presented, aimed at minimizing the influence of the American currency in key sectors of trade and investment. The fact that India does not plan to automatically switch to the Chinese yuan already shows New Delhi's ambitions. India wants to develop the rupee as a regional settlement unit by concluding agreements with neighbors, creating payment mechanisms without the dollar, expanding currency pools, and implementing national financial reforms. This means not simply following the Chinese model, but creating its own path that corresponds to its status as the most populous country with growing economic potential. Many international analysts, including think tanks in the United Kingdom and the United States, warn that if India truly launches large-scale de-dollarization and promotes the rupee, it will be a blow to Western financial hegemony. Banking circles in New York and London are already showing cautious concern about what risks may arise if major trade flows begin shifting out of the dollar. The United States for now prefers not to respond sharply. Officials in Washington maintain the rhetoric that India remains a strategic partner and guarantor of stability in South Asia, and that such internal discussions will not affect bilateral relations. But behind this calm exterior lies unease. In several diplomatic and analytical circles in Washington, it is already acknowledged that the course toward de-dollarization is not merely an economic step, but a geopolitical signal. A signal that India's leadership wants more freedom and less dependence on the American system. If India shifts to trade in rupees and pursues financial independence, it means that the share of global rule-setting the United States holds through the dollar will begin to lose the weight it considers natural. Under these conditions, America, even under Trump, is losing one of its tools of influence, especially over mid-level countries that are exploring alternatives. It is important to understand that making the rupee a regional standard in the coming years will be extremely difficult. International financial systems are built around the dollar. India does not yet have enough global trust in the rupee, nor mature exchange infrastructure, nor widespread foreign reserves. But the first important steps have already been taken. The government promises to give priority to state enterprises and strategic contracts in rupees. and to actively encourage exporters and investors to settle in Indian currency rather than dollars. If this strategy is carried through, it could become a long-term project of 5 to 10 years. Against this backdrop, even Trump's current weak moves look like an attempt to hold on to a status quo that is already starting to erode. It is also worth noting that even within the American elite, there is growing doubt about the reliability of allies, especially those who might make unexpected moves at a critical moment. If allies begin declaring their own currency ambitions and move away from dollar settlements, partnership commitments no longer look guaranteed. Several analysts already point out that Trump's return to the White House could mark a turning point, erasing the myth of the United States as a reliable partner that always plays by the rules. The world may now be witnessing the beginning of a new era in which major players start forming their own financial blocks, their own settlement zones, and their own currency orbits, and the United States will be forced to compete not only on military and political fronts, but also in the currency arena. Thus, the situation between the United States and India is not simply the collapse of a diplomatic story, but the beginning of a clash of ideas. The centrifugal forces of nations seeking financial autonomy versus a global system that has kept the world in the dollar's orbit for decades. In the coming months, we will see whether India is ready to go beyond its words and begin taking real steps to make the rupee a meaningful element of the global financial architecture. Behind diplomatic politeness, smiles at forums, and restrained statements about friendship and partnership lies a growing Cold War, not military, but economic, technological, and ideological. India no longer wants to be a junior partner to either Washington or Beijing. It is no longer a country waiting for approval or instructions, but a new power claiming its own pole of influence in a multipolar world. And that is what worries the United States most. What especially alarms the American elite is how quickly India has begun to draw closer to the global South, countries that are tired of the dollar's dominance and of Washington's sanction policies. At BRICS summits, Asian forums, and even in talks with African partners, Indian diplomats increasingly speak of financial balance, currency diversity, and a new fairness in international trade. It sounds mild, but in political language, it means undermining the dollar monopoly. This story is not just about trade or currency. It is about a shift in the civilizational center of gravity. For the first time in decades, America feels that its friends are no longer waiting for orders. And India, by denying a call that never existed, has in fact rung the bell of a new era. An era in which every state will speak its own economic language, and where the word dollar will cease to be the universal translator of power.